This one's going to be a long one, so I wouldn't blame you for skipping around. But if you do watch the whole video, well, you'll earn my respect, and that's pretty much it. So let's listen to Riven of 1,000 Voices. This is a track I've been avoiding for a little time because it's complicated, right? Where we have to look at the Ahamkara lore, we have to look at Riven as a whole. There's something in this raid. Obviously, we're dealing with two different planes. We're dealing with the Dreaming City, and then we're also dealing with the Ascendant Plane. And we understand that Riven, as an Ahamkara, uses wishes to manipulate people, and even though she was working with the Queen Marasov, she eventually makes this deal with Oryx, and she becomes, basically, she even owns the Taken at one point, and controls the Taken. She feels a bit listless once Oryx is defeated. Savathun and her have a chat, and even though she's disturbed by what she sees and hears about Savathun, and experiences with Savathun, she wants some direction, and she's sort of been left in the Keep of Voices. She wants out. What's interesting in this track is that Daya, Daya. The Ahamkara aren't necessarily dragons, you know, they are shapeshifters, and I don't know what Riven of 1,000 Voices looks like when she's not a reptile. However, it's really interesting that in this music, there is this forward propulsion, which of course, because it's a battle theme and raid music tends to be really unique in Destiny, there is this feeling of, it's very, very, very heroic. There is also this dilapidated sort of string sound. It's almost like the strings are muted. And I think that that is due to this idea of the Ascendant Plane and this Taken version of the Dreaming City that you're doing battle in. You know, the story behind Riven is incredibly complex, and the way that she manipulates Uldren, you know, how he is consumed by that Taken Chimera and all this other stuff like that. It's a very dense. However, that said, musically, this forward momentum is non-stop, and it continues this feeling of being thrust in this situation of having to take on Riven. Again, there is this feeling. This is what ultimately Riven wants. It's a very unique track. And you hear how this is dilapidated. Wow, 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 wow. You have effects, and obviously, you have this forward momentum in this electronic music that, again, I think is highlighting this dance between the Ascendant world and the Dreaming City itself. And while rhythmically these strings are fascinating, what really is intriguing to me is the horns. Ba ba yada da ba yada da ba yada da ba da ba da ba da ba da. I think that this is actually a reflection on the sheer size of Riven in this reptilian form, and I think there's almost like a majesty to that, which obviously because she's huge. The first time I saw Riven, I was just like, oh, what? It's just insane how, her mouth opens up, and there's a real feeling of grandiosity in this that we haven't necessarily seen in Destiny. We always fight large beings, but there's something specifically about Riven of a Thousand Voices that you can't help but just be like, holy shit. And especially considering how much of Riven is connected to Oryx and connected to Marasov. Riven has been part of this journey under the surface for so long, to then see this being standing before us with its claws out and its hands out and its mouth spread open, and the fact that we eventually go into its belly and all these sorts of things like that, I don't think we've really seen anything quite like that up to this point in Forsaken in Destiny, and it's really staggering. I also think it's interesting that we have this beautiful melody. It morphs and it gets deformed a little bit. I think as we move into the Ascendant plane and we move into this taken version of what we're experiencing, it does have that sort of shift into this darkness element there that is very intense, and it sort of takes this melody and morphs it into something else. I'm trying not to stop too much because this is a 17-minute track, but for the sake of being thorough, why not? And you hear that. You hear the Ascendant version of that right now. And you hear that too, again, with that effect. Whoa, wow, 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 wow. I love this. Bum, bum, bum. I may fast forward here because I'm pretty sure this is all the same as I shift into phase 2. Actually, I'm glad I didn't fast forward. Now we have this duality with the strings. Can you imagine being left down there? You make bargains with Marasov, you get visited by Savathun, you are disturbed by what you see, Oryx turns you taken, and then he dies, and you're left alone as this taken thing. You want to be set free, and there's this sense of desperation in Riven. It's not just about the Guardians. In fact, it's about being released from this hellhole so that she can be free of this. The Keep of Voices has been made specifically for her at the heart of the city. She's got no one or nothing, and it must be so painful for her to be down there. And so there is this desire to move past this, especially considering that as an Ahankar, Riven was able to transcend death in order to grant one last wish made by the Guardian Collective wish to save the city, which then causes a whole bunch of problems with the Dreaming City, and it becomes cursed partially into the Ascendant Plane based on Destinypedia.com. Like, there is this whole Riven is freed from her prison after this death. So it's a really interesting thing here musically, where we have these strings, and it has this desperate quality to it that I don't think is related to the Guardians, but actually related to Riven herself. Well, so this is actually, oh, that's a terrible place to stop. I'm so sorry. But this is actually building up because we're doing a lot of strings here. The stakes are increasing for Riven and for us as Guardians. Now we've got this fully orchestrated, yada, yada. That's the main motive of this whole thing. Wow. So let's stop there and break that down. That's super interesting. So obviously we have this swell into phase 2, and whatever's happening in the game, it doesn't really matter per se, but what's incredible is that then we have this electric guitar and we have this intro of the trumpet with the Guardian theme, with the Traveler theme, right? But at the same time, we're having this duality in this, we're having a counter melody and a counter dance with Riven's theme. So that actually makes so much sense to me, as the first phase 1 of this is all about Riven. Riven's desperation to get out of this prison, to be freed, finally have an understanding of what she should be doing, because she's been trapped down there for so long. So that's Riven's theme. We have this counter melody with the trumpets that is heralding the Guardian song and heralding the end of Riven and our motivation and our gumption to defeat Riven. So you have this counter melody where you have Riven on top and the Guardian theme, underneath, and that is creating this incredible synergy where we have double melodies, both bringing out different contexts emotionally for what's occurring. Because now the Guardians are like, you know what? No, we're done here. We're going to go into your belly and do whatever. And versus Riven, who is like, no, don't. Even though deep down she's like, yes, please free me. It's very interesting. This trumpet is fascinating to me because it really feels like this holding on of Riven, like ba-da, ba-da. You feel it's like no, it's like slipping. So even though Riven ultimately wants to be set free, and we know that she does based on lore, there is this feeling of like, no, I'm not ready, holding back and resisting that urge. It's really interesting. hear that dance right there? That's the dance of the trumpet, and then the trombones underneath. We got the Riven underneath, and then you've got the ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Do you hear the sheer size of this Ahamkara is so big, and this real desperate, constant battle between us and her and us and her, and this constant back and forth. It is so intense, and you hear that in the strings, and you hear that in the horns. There's a lot of horn usage here, and in this second phase, you hear the moments that we ascend into this taken area, and we ascend into the the ascendant plane, and then there's this constant back and forth. Constant duality, this constant, it's deadlocked, and it's terrifying. And there's this constant feeling of I don't know if we're gonna make this. Like, it's like it's rage-inducing, right? There's this constant feeling of being on edge and like always feeling like you're slipping and one step back, and this Ahamkara is coming at you and Riven's coming at you, and then you're backing forth and pushing into her. There's this constant propulsion. It's unrelenting. It never stops. It's incredibly heroic, and there's this constant push and pull, and it's a tug of war between who's in control and who's not in control. And in the end, you know, obviously we know what occurs, but it's incredible, and it's just insanely rich and multi-layered and incessant. It doesn't stop. It's unrelenting and incredibly powerful. If you made it through the entirety of this video, well, congrats. Pat on the back for you, pat on the back for me. 17 minutes and 49 seconds is not exactly a short thing to listen to, and then with my commentary, we're here for about 30 minutes, hopefully less. As always, if you like this sort of stuff, there's a bunch of Destiny on the channel. Feel free to like, subscribe. Thanks a ton for watching and sticking it out with me, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.